parents and students. This video is to go over questions 11 through 16 on your homework sheet. This sheet is titled Weekly Practice Notes for January 11th. Today in class we started going over some of these problems, and so this video is just to help you review your work at home and also to go over the questions that we didn't get to in class today. So we'll jump right in with question number 11, and it says, which picture or algorithm does not correctly represent 4 times 3 sixths? And today in class, we talked about if you're multiplying a whole number times a fraction, just as a review, you're going to multiply your whole number times your numerator, and 4 times 3 is 12, and your denominator is going to stay the same as 6. Because the whole number of 4 could also be written as 4 over 1. Because you're saying that I have 4 wholes divided into pieces that have 1 part. So 4 wholes is the same thing as this picture where you're showing 4 pieces. And they are not partitioned into any other parts other than just 1. So if each of these pictures was showing you split up into 6, and I have 3 of them shaded in, okay, here I have 4 groups, and each one has been split up into 6 pieces with 3 shaded in. This actually gives me the same product as I had up here, which is 12 sixths. And that's because if you count all of the 6 that you've shaded in, 1 sixth, 2 sixths, 3 sixths, 4, 5, 6 sixths, 7 sixths, 8 sixths, 9 sixths, 10 sixths, 11 sixths, and 12 sixths. You'll see that you have the correct answer represented here, which is also the same as letter A on your answer sheet. But remember, this question is asking you which one does not show that. So since A is true, that is not going to be our answer. We also talked in depth today about what multiplication actually means, and that was a review from our previous unit. Again, if I'm looking at my problem, 4 times 3 sixths, this multiplication sign is representing the words groups of. So I have 4 groups of 3 sixths, just like what we drew out in letter choice A. Well, if I'm saying I have 4 groups of 3 sixths, that would look like this. But you also have to remember that multiplication is just another way to do repeated addition. Repeated addition. And for letter choice B, they're showing you multiplication in between the different fraction parts. So letter choice B is showing you repeated 3 sixths, but it's not showing it to you with addition. It's showing it to you with multiplication. So letter choice B is not correctly showing you what 4 times 3 sixths should look like. So again, for number 11, B is the answer that you should have selected. If you're wondering about the other 2 answer choices, since we always want to review all of them, letter choice C shows you how to plot 3 sixths on a number line. And if you look at how it's jumping across the number line, it's going 3 sixths, and then on the next jump it stops at 1 whole, because 3 sixths plus 3 sixths would give you 1 whole. Then it jumps to 1 and 3 sixths, and then it lands you at 2 as another whole number. So C is correctly showing it to you. And then letter D is labeled for you already. You can see that it's blocking out 4 holes, and within each of those holes, it's showing you 3 sixths. So D is also correctly showing you the model for 4 times 3 sixths. All right, question number 12 says our classroom has 8 tables with 4 chairs at each table. There are 3 kids sitting at each table. Write the multiplication expression that matches this problem. So after reading this, you need to go back and think, what information are they telling me? And I know right from the very beginning, they're saying that I have 8 tables. So if you wanted to draw a picture, you could draw what those 8 tables would look like. And then it goes on to tell you that there are 4 chairs at each table. So you could go in and you could draw 4 chairs at each table. And then it also goes on to tell you that there are 3 students sitting at each table. So if you go back in from where you drew your chairs, you need to shade in 3 people at each table to represent the 3 students at each table. Alright, so once you do that, you should be able to think about what expression did I just color? I just drew 8 holes, and at each of my holes, I've shaded in a fraction of 3/4. So that is the multiplication expression that would match this picture. I have 8 tables. Each table I've drawn 4 chairs, and there are 3 students sitting at each table. So 8 groups times my 3 out of 4 chairs that have been filled. And in question number 12, it doesn't actually ask for you to solve to find an answer. If it was, it might ask you how many full tables could be filled instead of just having 3/4 at each of them. But for question number 12, as long as you know how to set up the expression 8 times 3/4, the question that's on your post-test will be similar, just using different numbers. Okay, let's move on to question number 13. And question 13 says that Josiah's basketball team has scored 138 points this season. Go Josiah's team. It also tells us that Josiah scored 1/3 of the total points. We want to know how many points the rest of the team scored. So from that, again, you need to know how to set up the multiplication expression. That's your very first step. So reading back into this, his team has scored 138 points. And we know that Josiah has scored 1/3 of them. So we're going to multiply that times 1/3 because we want to know what 1/3 of the total points are to give us Josiah's total. And then we'll be able to find the difference to see how many points the rest of the team scored. So when we multiply this, remember, we're going to multiply this whole number times our numerator. And 138 times 1 is 138. And our denominator of 3 stays the same. So that gives us 138/3. Now this is an improper fraction, and step 2 on your sheet also tells you that you do need to simplify. Well, before trying to simplify, a lot of people want to say, well, what's a common factor for both of these numbers? Before we get to that step, remember, a fraction is just another way to represent a division problem. So what I want to do is divide 138 divided by 3. Again, this is how many total points have been scored, and we're wanting to know what 1/3 of that is for Josiah's total. So if we split this number into 3 equal parts, that will tell us how much each of the equal parts is worth. So now let's get right into our division. And if you remember the steps, you divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. You can remember this through daddy division, mommy multiplication, sister subtraction, brother bring down, or you could remember it as does McDonald's sell burgers. Those are 2 different ways you could try to remember the steps for division. So we'll start with the division step, and I have to think, how many times can 3 go into, not 1, because that can't, so how many times can 3 go into 13? And I know that 3 can go into 13 4 times. Okay, now I need to multiply. 3 times 4 is 12. My next step is to subtract, and that will leave me with 1. And now brother bring down tells me to bring down the 8, which gives me 18. Now I go back to the top step of division. How many times can 3 go into 18? And it can go in 6 times. 3 times 6 is 18. I subtract. That leaves me with 0, and there's nothing else to bring down. So that means that 138 divided by 3 is 46. Now, is 46 telling you how many points Josiah scored, or is that telling us our final answer, which is how many points the whole team scored minus Josiah's points? That 46 is telling you how many points just Josiah scored. But the question wants to know how many points the rest of the team scored. So that means we have to find the difference. So I'm going to take the total points, 138, and subtract how many Josiah had, which was 46. 8 minus 6 is 2. I can't do 3 minus 4, so I have to regroup. This changes to a 13, and 13 minus 4 is 9. So the rest of the team scored 92 points. All right, question number 14. It says that Forrest bought a box of a dozen chocolates and 1/6 of the box is caramel and the rest are plain. How many of the chocolates are plain? So again, let's pull out the multiplication sentence that's inside of this word problem. He bought a box of a dozen chocolates. And it's important that you know that a dozen is the same thing as saying 12. So he bought a box with 12 chocolates. And 1/6 of the box is caramel. So we can multiply 12 times 1/6 to see how many out of the 12 were caramel. And when we do that, 12 times 1 is 12, and the denominator of 6 stays the same. Now when we have this improper fraction, remember we can think what is 12 divided by 6, and that would give us the whole number of 2. So that means that 2 of the chocolates out of the 12 were caramel. Well, if he has 12 total, and we know that 2 of them were caramel, what other number do we need to put in the blank to represent the plain? So 2 plus what, is 12. And that's 2 plus 10. So how many plain chocolates did he have in his box? 10. All right, number 15. Roxy's food